Good evening. How are you? This is Samit from Talks on Ground. So we've been covering the Indo-US relations, the India-Pakistan situation, the Iran-Israel situation in some depth in the last few weeks. And today, something very interesting happened. A very well-known voice of the Indo-US relationship, Ashley Tellis, he wrote a very interesting and scathing piece in Foreign Affairs magazine, and I thought it's very important to not only discuss what he said, but in some ways also rebut a part of it. So, this is what he's written. He says that India's great power delusions, how New Delhi's grand strategy actually thwarts its grand ambitions. So, I'm not going to take you through the whole thing, but remember, Ashley Tellis is a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He was instrumental during the Indian US civil nuclear agreement in 2008. So he's a voice that has really, from time to time, been very pro Indo US relationship. But I have noticed in the last 1 year that voice has really soured into a critique. And he goes on for quite a bit. He's raised many reasons as to what is plaguing this relationship, and we are going to discuss them now. So basically, what is he saying? So he's saying that he has a problem with India going on with this strategic autonomy, and at the same time expecting help from the Americans against China, and that India cannot on its own tackle China geopolitically or militarily, and therefore India needs America, and it's India's multilateralism is really undermining American interest, and therefore why should America help India out? Um, from what I understand, this change of tune, and I've been covering this for the last 1 year, there's been this change or pivot in the American perception, especially after the Ukraine war broke out and India started purchasing Russian oil. Uh, it it's very strange because if India hadn't bought Russian oil, the oil prices would have gone through the roof, and a lot of countries would have gone under. And India doesn't work like that. Um, I think they have a misreading of India in the U.S. Secondly, they uh, tell us also. Ashley also says that India's growth is just 6%. China was galloping at 10% for 30 years, and therefore India is not going to reach and catch up with China until 2050, and that whatever India does, India cannot overtake China. He forgets to mention that, or he doesn't mention that he's talking about nominal GDP and not based on PPP, which does change things around. And remember, the moment the de-dollarization goes on further, these exchange rates will converge to the real numbers. And when that happens, this whole differential between the Indo-Chinese economies will be very different. In the PPP terms, India is just 50% of China right now. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that India has the same amount of manufacturing. This is true. So India does lag China by a huge number when it comes to manufacturing. And China has used that leverage, as we can see with the rare earth magnets that it's holding on to. Of course, it's ready to supply it to the US because they have done the screws on the Chinese, but with India, it's playing hardball. However, given all of this, I also think that Ashley is making some points that sound very nice, but they're not very valid. So I will go through one of them, each one of them one by one. So while Ashley says that India should not insist on, being a pole itself and multilateralism, he forgets to mention that US keeps F-16s in Pakistan, even when it is offering GE engines to India, and has been very willing to work with Pakistan even when Pakistan is carrying out terror attacks in India. It has the strategic economy autonomy India is choosing right now is a trait that a lot of middle powers have because we cannot align with China for obvious reasons, given our borders and the fact we are both in Asia and there is a competition out there, but also because America itself is not trustworthy enough. So if India was today to, put its wagon right behind the American engine, who knows that, tomorrow they will turn around and, say, okay, now you have to embrace Pakistan and Bangladesh and Iran and some North Korea and who all. And, you have to accept whoever we sanction. Maybe they'll sanction Sri Lanka tomorrow. So will it be okay with India? So I think this is a very childish argument by Ashley. They either do not understand how America is perceived outside of America, the way it acts in terms of sanctions and in terms of military deals, how it scuttled the Australia France submarine deal. Do you think France would be happy with that? Then there is this China versus India. India has not said that we are going to compete with China, and India is not a uh, authoritarian country. India is a democracy, and India doesn't have the kind of the 10-15 year lead that China had. Plus, the Americans had a deal with them, and all and the Europeans went to China and basically opened their technology to the Chinese. So the China threat that US talks about is really a function or a creation of their own, just like Taliban was, for instance, or Osama bin Laden. So again, this is not a very, if you go deep into this issue, it's not a valid concern. Uh, why will India completely accept America's hegemony? Then there is this whole point about India's democracy is dying, and now you have a illiberal government, and there are Muslims and Christians in India, and this is not good. Just to sound, very neutral, he also brings in that America has also turned illiberal because he's probably a Democrat, Mr. Tellis is. So my point with that is that. I think the Indo-US relationship really flowered during the Modi regime, and until 2019 August, Americans were very happy with Narendra Modi, and there was a lot of things going on. And I remember on X, rather Twitter in those days, there were these checklists that the American analysts were carrying, saying that okay, this reform is done, this reform is done, just 20% more left, or you're lagging in the electricity area, you're lagging here, pushing India to do this or that, GST, which in some ways might have been pushed from the American side to help their companies to have a single Indian market. So when India acted alone in Kashmir, August 2019, suddenly the tune has changed. So you see, India has to basically comply with every American request. Otherwise, India is like a bad guy. Uh, we will surround it, with arming Pakistan, changing regime in Bangladesh. What kind of policy is that? So it means your read on India was wrong. United States of America, with all the analysis, all the data, 20 years of engagement, and you got India wrong. So where did you get it wrong? You got it wrong because of your own policies and not because of India. India never agreed to change its own nuclear liability bill law, which, what the Americans want is that the liability of any mishap in a nuclear plant should not be, their company should not be held to account. And most Indian governments didn't want that to, happen. We remember what happened with Union Carbide in Bhopal in 1984. So these are the kind of changes they want for their private players. So I don't think it's a very valid thing because in India, we care about the people, we care about human life. Private capital is not about everything, and India has a layered identity. Uh, so it's not like Hindutva has um, caused anything negative for India. In fact, the identity is stronger. People are more patriotic. Maybe that scares United States of America. Maybe they want a weak government in India. Maybe they want a fractured polity. Maybe they want, Narendra Modi out. I think there was a famous campaign called Modi Out, which was headed by the erstwhile Clintons. But enough said. But on a serious note, if I have to critique this, I think they've got a few things wrong here. Take, for instance, India's digital stack, in terms of UPI, Aadhaar, and so on. US doesn't have that. Now, this is a technology stack. India's progress in artificial intelligence within the resources that India has been significant, and some of it was showcased during the Operation Sindoor in how India's integrated air defense worked, almost autonomously. Engaging the drone warfare that Pakistan indulged in. So I think India is doing pretty well. And need I remind everyone that in December 2024, there was a kind of a reapproach, like a rejigging of ties between India and China. Maybe that is what is irking America more than this pouting of a lot of rubbish, in my opinion. What has also happened is that I must share this. I used to think earlier that, Tellis is like the guy, Ashley Tellis is the guy who tells the American policymakers as to what policy to make. But I think right now, Tellis is just communicating what the US policy will be going forward. So you can see Donald Trump met with Asim Munir yesterday for lunch and promised all defense technology to him. So they are not concerned about, the illiberal Pakistani nation state or anything that it's taking a turn to the right or something. That goes out of the window. So uh, it's very difficult to, if I was an American, I'll squirm reading this piece about India. But then I'm not American, and uh, if I've missed any points in this argument, please comment, and I'm open to be challenged. And I would love to hear what you think. In my opinion, most of his points were off track. I do understand from a very cold geopolitical analysis. Sure, the Americans don't want a multipolar world, but the way he's articulated it is not worth, much. So this is all from Summit here. Good evening and bye bye.